And what we're going to realize as we go through this study together is really Jesus is allowing our minds to cast an entirely new view of the world, an entirely new identity of ourselves, and entirely new values in which we live for. And it's going to challenge what we love. It's going to challenge what we fear. It's going to challenge what we pursue in this life. It's really going to challenge the way we define success, and especially the way we define blessing. Now, before we enter into that conversation of blessing, as you heard, it's repeated over and over through the Beatitudes. Before we get into that, the question we're confronted with is, what are we going to do with this teaching of Jesus? Because again, back to the Old Testament story, Moses comes, he delivers the law to the people, and as he's saying, this is the way God has showed us to be human, what are all the people doing as he comes down the mountain? They're worshiping idols. They're worshiping, they're living for, they're giving worth and meaning and value to everything but God himself, which brings human demise and corruption instead of human flourishing. And so these words that Jesus are going to invite us into is a whole new way of being human, and it's this invitation for us to acknowledge our need to submit our lives to him. So, blessed. What does it mean to be blessed in this life? Well, where do we even get this word from? This is a word that we actually get from the Latin. A lot of the history of tradition is in Latin, and this is the Latin word beatus, which means blessed or happy. But the Greek word for blessed is actually a lot more complex in the New Testament. And it's the Greek word makairos. And it's a very tricky word to define. We don't really have an English equivalent for it. It's a very complex word full of meaning and richness that you can't really just put in a word. But we sort of put it in this small word, blessed. But really, it wasn't much of a spiritual word when Jesus used it. It was used in this framework of this is something of celebration. This is like another way of saying congratulations. This is another way of saying like everything is going great for you. You are blessed. You are lucky. Congratulations. Life is the way it's supposed to be going, so celebrate. And here's this framework that Jesus gives, but what we're going to find is what Jesus calls blessed. What we're supposed to celebrate is completely upside down in the paradigm of Jesus' understanding. But Jesus starts with this deep desire for every one of us to be blessed. I mean, who doesn't long to be blessed? We live for the blessing of our parents. We live for the blessing of our peers. We live for the blessing of God even. There's something profound about our humanness that longs for blessing, for things to be made right.